Welcome to everybody. We're here to talk about what's new in version 25 for Church Windows. Okay, so I'm basically, folks, going to move through from left to right, membership, then to donations, then accounting, and then payroll. Okay, these are some of the big enhancements that we have. This doesn't cover everything. The other stuff I'm not covering is fairly minor in most cases. What I'm going to be going through is all some of the big stuff that's going on or being enhanced in 25 here, starting with membership. And there's two things essentially in membership that are big changes in the new version 25, okay? The first one is, so we have had in the software for a number of years, I'm saying number of years in like the 20 or 21 years that I've been working for the company, we've always had this function down here called visits, right? So it is essentially a portion of the membership database that users have had available, typically used by ministers and clergy to record information about their meetings with church members, visitors, what have you, and it can be password secured, okay? However, in version 25, if I now go up to special functions, we now show this now new option at the top called Setup Notebird. Okay, Notebird now is a third-party company that now interfaces with Church Windows and allows you to upload member information to Notebird, the Notebird app, and allows your ministers and clergy to be able to have access to membership information, names, addresses, information about folks in your membership database in the Notebird mobile app. Okay, it is a subscription-based service. There are some benefits and features to it. So right here, when we click on the Notebird option, it does open up the Notebird setup page, and I've got it open down here. But if you click right here, and if you notice in the upper right, it says learn more about Notebird. Okay, so if I click on that, it now opens up, and and it shows, hey, access your Church Windows membership data from anywhere, and it does have the tutorial or the video. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that would do that, folks, but it does show you about there and kind of talk you through what Notebird can do for you and your church. And there is a free trial. It's a 14-day free trial that you can try this at no charge, and just to see what it does. But I already have an account set up for that. And this is essentially the same thing as if you were to have the 14-day trial. But basically, there's an integration process. That right here under integrations, I've said Church Windows is my application. The software, their app, integrates with other platforms and programs, not just Church Windows. But basically, if I copy this, okay, and now I go back to my Church Windows and I do paste, it pastes that in there. And now notice the lower half of the window now becomes live. It allows us to tie in certain information fields. As it says here, the following fields are user defined. Please select the matching field if you have one. Leave the box blank if you don't. So under marital status, we would scroll down and we would find, I think marital status for us, marriage date. This is in their systems as well. This just, they happen to correspond. But cell phone, like right here, we have cell phone. It happens to correspond. Other phone. Do we have one? Alternate. See, alternate phone. That's why there is there could be some slight deviations. Their system happens to call it other phone. In our database, it's called alternate. Work email. There might be some parallels. There may not. But if you don't have some of these in your database, let me see if we've got other email. Maybe we have it labeled as work email, other email. There it is. Gender, and yours might be called, something else. Who knows? Gender and membership date. These all happen to check out. But if they don't, you can leave them blank. Okay. And membership date. And then you can also have it upload information or people based on specific status code that you have in membership. So the so the software does allow us to integrate in there, and you can click save, and Notebird then will allow you to upgrade that information in the software. Okay, so we now click upload data in the bottom left, and you can pick and choose which ones you want, not assigned, what have you, and then just simply click upload, and it uploads this information. Notice it says uploading to Notebird. Says right here, sync completed, 69 records sent, 69 records added, and you can do this periodically to upload the new information from Church Windows into Notebird. So now when I close out of that and I go in here, I can now go back to people, and here are all of my people that are available in Notebird, and now my minister can have, or ministers can have access to that information all directly from their smartphone. So folks, this is one of the newest, biggest things that we have available. Again, there's no obligation for you to utilize Notebird at all. It's just another integration that Church Windows has that allows you to make better use of the database. Since we don't have a mobile app that allows ministers and clergy and folks to have that information on the go. Okay, so just again, we've gone a little long here today, or started a little late, so I'm not going to really go into any more detail on Notebird other than that. The other notable change in the membership database here that we have that is now new is in here the ability to be able to print a donation statement directly for an individual from the individual record. So if I go over here to the right, I'm actually going to go to a different person. We're going to go to Carolyn Ames here. We found her. You notice to the right of the little, the hashtag, the envelope, the show pledges, we got the little printer icon. When I float my cursor over that, it says print statement. So now when I click on that, it does allow us to open up and print a single statement for an individual directly from the membership module. So here it is for 2023. I choose my appropriate statement layout. I can include my statement memo. It defaults to the whole year, but I can simply check either print or email, and I can either email it to her or send it or print it. I simply click print email statement. It opens it up, and it either allows me to print that for her. Here's her giving for 2023, or I can uncheck that and check email and email that statement to her as well. So that's a new feature in 23 or 25, excuse me, is the ability to email a statement to a single person directly from the membership module. Now, of course, your folks do have to have, the membership person does have to have at least reporting capability from the donations module in order to do that, but that's a fairly simple thing to change in your security setup, in the security setup for your users. Let's jump into donations now. We got a couple options here that are changed as well. So now when we go into donations, well, for the past, since version 23, I believe you've had the ability in membership and accounting to attach files and documents to people, to transactions, to accounts. Now you have that capability in the donations module as well. So you can do it when you're entering donations. You can upload those or attach those files and documents. So right here, if I choose to enter a date, and I choose a giver, and I enter an amount, and I come down here, let's enter a check number. Over here, if I choose an account, so right here, over here, notice I've got a little paperclip icon to the right here to attach it to the transaction or the account. We're going to discard that. Let's add it to the batch. We're going to discard that because you can also go into manage givers. We can pick a giver, and over here now notice in the upper right next to address you've got the files and documents tab. You have that in your membership and in your accounting software as well for accounts. So if I wanted to attach a document for Carolyn, I can click add a file. It opens up a browse window and allows me to browse to documents of some kind, attaching a file of some kind if I choose, and then I choose that and it now attaches that. You also have the ability to do that for accounts. So if you go to manage accounts now, so if you've got like Memorial or something, Memorial's a good one. I like to use that if you've got something you want to attach to the Memorial Giving account. Right here you've got files and documents to the right. Okay. Again, add a file allows you to add a file to that and attach that. They can always be extracted or deleted later if you wish. Okay. Second thing that's added in the donations module here is under when you go into reports and export and labels, you can actually export the label information as opposed to printing them. So if I go to next, and I'm now at step 2, we notice here at the top left, I've got both a print and an export option. So if you click on export, I have created one already. But when you come in here, you simply click the add new button and it says add a name for this export. Okay, so in my case, I've created one here called label export. And if I go to select fields, it does allow you to choose what information you want to export. So I have one with name, address, 1 and 2, city, state, and zip code. If I want to add, export, say, my giver numbers, to that or something like that, or any other information, I can add more information there. But simply once I have that information, I simply click OK. Up here's my export option. So I can choose it to either export it as a CSV or tab. .csv or .txt file format. We're going to choose tab. I'm going to browse and I'm going to scroll to the desktop here and we're going to click open and then export. It takes sometimes a few. Oh, I got to choose whether I want one for label per individual, giving unit, or family. We'll choose giving unit and click export. It does take a few seconds, but it says it's been now created. Now when I close out and minimize, here's my label export. When I double click on that, it does open it in Notepad and it does show me the names of everyone that I do have labels for, okay? Or the label information for. It's not in a label format per se. It's just a file that I can import into a label company or label program or label format in another program if I wish, okay? Let's move on to accounting. I've got a few more of these folks to go through, so I want to make sure before I look at your questions here that we're kind of going through the things I wanted to cover first. All right, in accounting, this is huge, folks. In accounting, for years and years and years, folks have been wanting us to be able to include comparative information on the treasurer's report. If I go to reports and financial, I now have an annual comparative treasurer's report. This, in addition to balance sheet, fund activity, treasurer's report, we have an annual comparative treasurer's report. So now I can compare actual income and expense totals across years. So right here, I can say choose 21 to 23. I can choose a fund if I want. So say my general operating fund. I can choose a custom account group. Let's say choose budget treasurer's report for custom group. And now when I click print, let's go to here. Let's do check all subtotals. And let's click print. Hang on, folks. Give me a second here. Sorry. Oh, wait. What's going on here? Sorry. I try my best to be on top of this, folks, but there they are. All right. So you do need to check things. We're going to go back to our, I don't know if I've got anything in my, I don't have anything in the custom group. We're not going to worry about that. Let's do general fund instead. And then when we go to print, I did just 1 year. Sorry. Let's go to 3 years. and print. So here we now have actual income and expense totals for 23, 22, 21. Now this again does not compare budgets for these years. It only shows us actual income and expense totals for the 3 periods. If we want to see the actual or the budget totals, you would want to print out the presentation budget report for the 3 years to have that and sit that side by side. But here is my actual general tithes and offerings for 23, for 22, for 21. And here's how much my expenses are for senior pastor for those 3 years, okay? These are the actual amounts of income that we spent or income that was brought in and credited to income accounts or posted to income accounts and the actual amount of the expenses that we'd posted to these. No budget amounts, only actuals, okay? Okay. The other big thing in accounting is, well, I don't know if it's big, but it's something that we have. You can actually enter negative amounts under your bank reconciliation. So when we choose, say, our first, fifth, third savings, I choose next. I can actually key in here negative balances in any one of these fields. Okay. So if I go down and I put in, positive 234.56 and $20, and I enter in 91.11, it now allows me to proceed to next. Before, you could not enter negative amounts in the bank reconciliation in any fields. You should be able to enter negative balances anywhere in there at will. Okay? All right. So those are those 3 modules. We've got a few things that we've added in payroll. Payroll was the big update this year in 22 to 23. We've certainly added in a few enhancements in the payroll module as well. If you've seen what you came to see in the other modules, folks, of course, you may certainly exit or leave the webinar at any time. If you don't own payroll, this may be of no use to you. We've added some grand total capabilities or some grand totals on check stubs when there's multiple pay labels involved. So if I look at, like in this case, I choose like Jimmy Hilliard and I go to next, he gets paid for multiple job functions. So right here we see his custodian pay label, his regular pay label, PTO time, and then a grand total here to the far right. Okay, so it totals all of the pay labels. If there's one, it's just one, but if you've got employees who work multiple jobs, there is going to be a total of all of the pay labels that were paid for them. I'm trying to try to go through these as quickly as possible, folks. Appreciate your patience while we go through this. On the employee detail hours report, right here, payees date detail hours report, we've added the ability to report PTO in either days or hours. So if you go down to the bottom right down here, you can notice down here options report PTO in days. So if I do that for the whole year, it will report for, it'll multiply hours into the days or divide those, the case may be. So right here under PTO, oh, sorry, meant to separate that by per payee and a page break. My fault. So right here, Larry's 20 hours, 20 days. His are days. Jimmy Hilliard had 5 days. He's earned time throughout the course of the year. Steve Jones, George Killing down here has earned some PTO time and has time to start the year. If we don't report that in days, it will multiply it by 8-hour day, 40-hour week. So Larry is now 160 instead of 20 hours, 20 days at the beginning of the year. Same is true for any other employee, okay? Also, I guess I should stay on that report. As we clearly see now, a problem was when accumulating values are involved, sometimes those extend out further, and we notice now when we go back down to George Killing here, the PTO time earned and PTO used does factor out to 4 decimals past the, or 4 characters or digits past the decimal point. So it should be more accurate now, okay? You can also then calculate a payroll adjustment to zero out PTO pay rates for folks. We're not going to go through that because we're going a little long here today. Yes, this is kind of big too. When, for audit history purposes, when a payroll is voided, whether that's a direct deposit payroll or regular checks, it does now tag the username and date and timestamp that the pay was voided. So if I check show voided here, we notice I entered and voided a pay here for September 7th, excuse me, and it now shows that it was voided. There, I don't have security set up here in our data, our trial data here, but it'll show voided by, and it'll include a date and a timestamp on that as well when that occurs, okay? And that's true when you're going to payroll and void individual pay too. Show voided, there it is. The universal logon means I just don't have security set up, but when there are usernames and passwords entered, that username and password will be entered in this voided by field over here to the right, okay? I think it'll even be included under the voided pay reports as well. Columns and voided by. So yes, when you go to print that, it'll show universal by log voided by and include the time on that as well. A couple more things. You can inactivate taxes and pay labels now, miscellaneous and local taxes. Okay, so when we go up to payroll, or sorry, data setup, local taxes, right here you can click on one, and if we notice down here in the middle it says inactive. So when we click on that, it allows you to inactivate that if it's no longer being used. If it is one that has been used and you attempt to inactivate it, it should pop up with a message that tells you that. It should be coming up here. Maybe I don't have any in here that I've used this year. Sorry, folks. I thought I had some that did. Maybe I don't. I apologize. But there is one. If they have been used, it will pop up with that message and tell you, hey, it's been used, and it'll say, are you sure you want to inactivate this? And it will let you if you wish. But it's just warning you that you have folks that have had that local tax applied and asking if you're sure. You can always come in and reactivate it again by unchecking that box, okay? Pay labels, right here, payroll, data setup, pay labels, can go right here. Now this is where it's going to pop up with that as well. So if I click right here under additional, it says, hey, this pay label has been assigned to one or more payees, or you sure want to activate it? Sorry, assigned, not used per se. So it just says yes, and it will allow us to go ahead and do that if we want. But you just come in and uncheck it if you want to reactivate it as well. Okay, folks, so that so the final thing I want to say about it is the update for 25 does also include preliminary 2024 federal tax tables and for the state of Ohio, and it will include other state tax table updates as they roll in. We probably will even have another update for it at the end of the year.